Hey there, thanks for joining us here on 90s Plus. I'm 90s Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. The look at your chances for a white Christmas, what we could be talking about this weekend, because there is the potential for a medium to significant snowstorm for Christmas Eve and perhaps on the 23rd as well. And normally I would not, this is still 5, 6, 7 days out. I'll start before I get into anything, show you the maps or anything like that. I would not normally be talking about a storm 6, 7 days out like this, but because it's on Christmas Eve, perhaps because it's on the 23rd as well, that's the time obviously where it would lead to a lot of big travel impacts. So I want to make sure that you're getting an early heads up. And before again to anything like this, this is still very much in the could possibly phase. It's not, it's going to snow a lot. We're still a lot of things to fine tune, and I'll break those down for you as well. But I would say, generally speaking, if you do have travel plans on the 23rd or the 24th, rather than making changes, you can if you want to, I guess, but it's still very early to start making changes to travel arrangements. I would just start thinking about alternatives. So, for example, if you're driving somewhere, now might be the time to think about, hey, maybe I can do it a day earlier, or maybe talk to my loved ones, say, hey, it seems like it might snow on Christmas Eve. Do you want to try and potentially move it up? I wouldn't pull the trigger on it yet. Same idea with a flight. Start looking at maybe some of those alternatives if you have the option, but I wouldn't pull the trigger on making those moves quite yet because there's still a lot of uncertainty. But here's what we know at this point. So there's a possibility for a white Christmas here in Denver. It's too early to talk about totals. It looks like the bulk of the system would be on Christmas Eve. That's the way it's looking right now. Obviously it's kind of, I'm sure you're probably wondering, what are you talking about, man? It's 60 degrees outside right now. Tomorrow's going to be actually near 70 for us here in Denver. Ridge of high pressure, that H there at the bottom of your screen, that's what's responsible for this warm, dry pattern that we're in right now. That's going to slowly budge its way off to the east, but it's going to be slow. So that's why this week we're going to be mostly under the influence of that ridge of high pressure. And you notice that L on the left-hand side of your screen, that is one of two systems that'll combine for our next potential snowstorm. So let's kind of walk you through what we're looking at here as we head over the next few days. It looks like come Saturday. So again, we're zipping ahead here. This is Saturday the 23rd. So keep in mind here, folks, I'm recording this on December the 18th. This is 5 days out. It's a long ways to go. So I don't have to tell you that forecasting the weather in Colorado 1 day out's a challenge. When we're talking 5, 6, 7 days out, that is beyond a challenge. But I will say that we are looking at two storms that will take shape. One is in the Pacific Northwest. It's probably the stronger one, is the one in the Northwest, and another storm in the desert Southwest. And what's probably going to happen is that these two storms will phase together. They'll turn into one. They're going to merge, basically. These storms will turn into one big storm. And that is the interesting part of this. When these two storms tend to phase together, that means that somebody is going to get a big snowstorm somewhere here along the Rockies. I'm pretty increasingly confident about that. That somebody from Wyoming down to New Mexico is going to get a big storm. The question is that somebody, us, here in Northeast Colorado? Still too early to say, but some of the computer forecast models are giving Colorado and Northeast Colorado a pretty good snowstorm coming up for next week. So before we get into any of those totals, I'm not talking totals yet, just to be honest. If you're going to ask me how much snow is going to fall, you got the wrong guy, the wrong situation. I will discuss this in detail, but I would say, if you're a fan of a white Christmas, that even if we have a slower scenario or a scenario that's less snowy, we'll probably end up with at least an inch or so of snow on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and that should probably be enough to give us a white Christmas. So it's looking good. It's not a guarantee, but it's looking pretty good that we're going to have a white Christmas. And by the way, for us here in Denver, we only get a white Christmas about 38% of the time, and I'll show you those stats in just a second as well. Another thing to keep in mind, I'm going to the game, Broncos-Patriots Sunday night at Power Field in Mile High. Ooh, that could be fun. That could be fun. That could be a snowball special. So if you're heading to the game on Sunday night, yeah, prep for snow, because it looks like it's going to be coming down at a Power Field in Mile High. Because that would probably, at this point, it looks like Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Christmas Eve, Christmas Eve night, that would probably be the bulk of the storm. So again, that would mean the Christmas Eve game for the Broncos at Power Field in Mile High could be a real fun one. So with that said, here's a 7-day forecast. This is as of Monday, so just take this with a grain of salt. It looks like Sunday, Monday. One thing you might notice, especially if you're astute, if you're paying attention to the weather, you like the weather, notice a couple things about this. One, notice how high those temperatures are on Sunday. If we're talking about a snowstorm, we want it to be obviously 32 or below. That's the freezing point. If you are above 32, it's hard to have snow stick. These temperatures are pretty warm. This is a pretty warm storm. So amongst the many questions we got right now, will it even be cold enough for that snow to significantly stick? That's a serious question at this point. If it's going to be 38, 39, even with the low sun angle this time of year, that would probably mean we're talking about mostly slush. Car tops, grass is getting the majority of the snow, not necessarily the roads, and that would limit impacts. But we would probably get at least some snow out of that regardless. All right, so the chance of White Christmas in Denver for snow actually accumulating on Christmas Day, it's only happened 19 times going back to 1882 for snow to actually fall and stick on Christmas Day. We've got a pretty good chance of that happening this year. It's looking at least possible. And I would say the first part, 1 inch or more of snow on the ground on Christmas morning, that is what I'm saying is looking good. That is not a guarantee, but I would say there's two main scenarios of this storm system. A quicker storm that doesn't really organize itself until it's east of us. Even with that, we should probably get enough energy to get a quick slushy inch or two of snow out of that on Christmas Eve. But then there's that slower, stronger potential, which could be a 6-inch plus kind of storm. That, again, to me, either way, I think we're going to get enough to get that inch of snow on the ground. But again, not a guarantee. By the way, the snowiest Christmas on record, quick bit of trivia, 24 inches took place in the Christmas Eve blizzard. A lot of you will probably remember this. Some of you will, at least. 1982. So I don't think this is going to be that, by the way. But back on camera here. I didn't show you snowfall maps for a reason. This is 6-7 days out. Long ways to go. Again, forecasting the weather in Colorado. 1 day out's a challenge. 6 days out, forget about it. Point being, so there's kind of two main ways that I see this taking shape. I mentioned how those two storms are going to merge together into one strong storm. When, where that takes place is up for the big questions. And folks, the energy for the system, so the two storm systems, one of those storms is out over the Gulf of Alaska right now. It's literally off the coast of Anchorage. The other one's just off the coast of Japan. So this is a long ways to go. The computer forecast models need a lot of energy, a lot of inputs to be fed into them for this to be properly assessed and taken shape. Another thing I'll say too, again, it looks pretty warm, borderline with those temperatures. So we would need to get what we call dynamic cooling, where you pull down the cold air. You need some pretty heavy precipitation for this to be a significant snow event. Because again, we just don't have a ton of cold air to work with in the system, which is pretty unusual for late December, but that's another story. But if the system merges together in the right spot, and say it's southeast Colorado where that area low pressure develops, and it sits and spins for 24 to 36 hours like some of the forecast models are showing, that would be interesting. That would be potentially 6 inches plus of snow, maybe even a foot plus worth of snow. It's one of those kinds of setups where it's, I wouldn't say uh-oh, but it's one of those where, oh, I'm paying attention. That's the kind of setup we're looking at right now, where it's, interesting. But you need a lot of different things to come together for this to really take shape. And we have some of those dynamics in place, but again, cold air, a question mark. Where and when that low develops, we probably won't have a great idea about that until probably realistically Thursday, Friday. So I should say Wednesday, Thursday, we should have a better idea. Once we get to about 2-3 days out, we'll get better data fed into those models, so that should give us a better idea. But hopefully it gives you a good idea about what to expect, and also some of that Christmas Eve, Christmas Day trivia. In the meantime, we'll keep you posted as it gets closer. Once again, I'm 9 News meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus, and have a great rest of your day.